Nice smile, Baruch. Very nice to see you and your dog. Welcome to Torah is for everyone, even for the dog. They're one of the God's favorite animals. Dog people love dogs.
Yeah,
Miriam, welcome.
thank
We have a
you.
long portion. It's a double one, which catches us up to be the same as with Israel because we're behind.
Is that why it's a double portion?
I think that's why it's a double portion. Okay, so let me share the screen. Hold on a second. Okay, here we go. Let me get rid of this. Okay, you know what? Uh, One of the things that I was thinking about was that my favorite part of reading these Torah portions is digging into them to uncover truths that impact my physical life and my soul. And I think it's the same for all of us. Let me just put us over here. You know, it's like a treasure hunt. And my nature, I'm a hunter. And every treasure or pearl of wisdom that I find and apply, I find it leaves me better and wiser. I feel younger and more excited about searching more. I was 42 when my searching brought me to the Bible. And that was when I was looking through Christianity. I'd looked through so many religions, and every one of them leading me on to the next part of my path, my journey. Just like Bamidbar, it's a journey. But I found that there is no end to truth, and it keeps us searching with an open mind, and we never stop learning. So, with that said, let's read this Torah portion together, Chukat Balak, like ordinary people, like those newly freed slaves who stood at the base of Mount Sinai listening to the voice of God. And let's see what we can uncover tonight. It might not be the same for everyone. Sometimes you see things, Miriam, that I don't see. Baruch, you may see things that we don't see. But I can guarantee when we have an epiphany, it's awesome and it makes us hunger for more. So we'll begin with Chukat. Chukat Balak, it's a double portion, and it spans from Bamidbar, Numbers 19, verse 1, to 25, chapter 25, verse 9. Now, last week, Korach ended with offerings for and from the Levites because they had no land. And offerings play a huge role in Israel. This one, we're going to begin with another offering, which is not a typical one. It's called the red heifer. So let me begin by reading it. And the Lord spoke to Moses and to Aaron, saying, "This is the ordinance, chukat." Just to repeat, a chok or a chukah is an ordinance, a statute, a ruling that God gives us and doesn't tell us why, doesn't explain it. It's something that we may not understand, but we simply have to do it. Like when we say to a 2-year-old, you have to do this, and the 2-year-old wants to understand, but we know that they would not be able to understand because they're just too young. They just have to do it. So this is the chukah of the Torah, which the Lord has commanded, saying, "Speak to the people of Israel that they bring Adam Aduma, para aduma. Para is the red heifer. Aduma from the word Adam, which means red, Adom from the earth. A red heifer without spot, no blemish, which never came, upon which was never put to yoke." So in other words, it had never worked. They didn't put it under a yoke to plow the land. It was perfectly a full offering, a beautiful offering. Give it to Eliezer the Cohen, and he's going to bring it. I thought it was interesting, outside the camp. And one shall slay it before his face. The Eliezer the priest shall take of its blood with its finger and sprinkle the blood directly before the tent of meeting. So let me look and see here because I wrote something about outside the camp was the zone designated for the most severe categories of ritual impurity, away from the camp, especially from the center, which was where the most holy was. Outside the camp was where the lepers were, which we read in Leviticus 13. The remains of sin offerings in Leviticus 4, where people were executed, stoned to death, and where the scapegoat was before it was set free. The ritual was to treat contamination with the dead. The ashes, not the blood, were the purifying agent. That's really important. It was ashes, not blood in this particular instance. A famous paradox here that it's going to teach us is that the ashes of a pure animal was used to purify somebody who became impure when they came in contact with the red heifer. So, in other words, the ashes purified the unclean or the impure, and everyone who handled the dead heifer or its ashes became ritually impure themselves. Israel had to go out to receive it. Purification was never self-generated from within the sanctuary system. So it's classified a chok, which is a divine statute whose full rationale is not disclosed. Okay, let's continue. So one shall burn the heifer in his sight, its skin, its flesh, its blood, its dung. In other words, everything was burnt up. The priest was to take cedar wood, which was the tallest of trees, representing pride, hyssop, which is the smallest of bushes, which represented our humility, scarlet, and cast it into the midst of the burning heifer. The Kohen shall wash his clothes, bathe in water, and after come into the camp, and the priest shall be unclean until evening. It's this whole idea of clean and unclean, pure and impure, is a chok. We can't possibly understand why this thing made us clean and why something else made us unclean. It was just something that God said. The man that is clean shall gather up the ashes of the heifer and lay them up outside the camp in a clean place. It shall be kept for the congregation of the people of Israel for a water of sprinkling. This was a very specific type of water, and it would be used to sprinkle on the altar from far. And it's a little bit like the concoction that was made by the priest for the woman who was accused of being unfaithful. It was called a sotah. She had to the priest would make a concoction. And if she believed it, she would admit to her guilt. If she didn't believe it, she was innocent and nothing would happen to her. So we're dealing with people who had been bombarded with one superstitious ritual after another because they lived in Egypt for many years. It was a pagan culture. How can a people completely change these habits overnight? Or even over the 40 years living in the desert before entering the promised land? We can compare this to today's religions, which contain many superstitions. Superstitions are not from God. They are rooted in pagan beliefs. God's words are rooted in wisdom and truth. Like there are superstitions like someone will walk into a house with a mezuzah on it, and if they don't kiss the mezuzah, they run out and they go back and they kiss the mezuzah because it could bring them bad luck. That's the type of superstition that is not from God. God wants us to look at what it says inside The mezuzah, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. He is everything in our lives. Superstition is pagan. We have to remember that. So he who gathers the ashes of the heifer shall wash his clothes and be unclean until evening. It shall be to the people of Israel, and this is important, to the stranger who lives among them for a statute forever. Whoever touches a dead body is unclean for 7 days. He shall purify himself from the third to the seventh day. He shall be clean. And if he doesn't purify himself on the third day and on the seventh day, he shall not be clean. This makes no sense. Honestly, it's just something that God is telling us to do. Why? We don't know. It says, this is the Torah. When a man dies in a tent, all who come into the tent shall be unclean. Why? We don't know. Every open utensil that has no covering is unclean. Again, it's a chok. Whoever touches one who was slain with a sword, or a dead body, or the bone of a man, or a grave, shall be in a place. Unclean means he's unable, he's in a state where he cannot approach the divine for whatever reasons. So the only way to take this person and make him clean, able to do that, were to take the ashes of the heifer and all these, the ritual, and then they would be able to do that. Why? We don't know. A clean person shall take hyssop, dip it in water, sprinkle it on the tent and on the utensils, upon the persons who were there, upon the one who touched a bone, or one slave, one dead, or a grave. And the pure person shall sprinkle on the impure person on the third and the seventh day, purify himself and his clothes, bathe himself, and be clean at evening. Why? We don't know. We're just told it was at the beginning of the formation of our people, and God was asking us to do these things to set ourselves apart. We would be a nation set apart to bring, so that anybody looking at these people knew that they were the ones representing the Creator, the only God, the God of the universe, and not the gods that they were worshiping. You know, last week we saw how Moses didn't defend himself when he was accused by Korach for making himself out to be a big shot by the other leaders, and he didn't defend God. And Moses didn't make excuses for being chosen. His face fell, and he immediately took action. This week, we're going to read about how people complained and quarreled with Moses. So let's continue a little further on. We're going back past this portion, and we get to the part where the people of Israel, the entire congregation, were in the desert of Tzin in the first month. And the people were living in Kadesh. And Miriam died there, and she was buried there. We already knew that they were not going to go into the promised land. There was no water for the congregation, and they gathered themselves together against Moshe and Aaron. And it says, and the people quarreled with Moshe. And they said, if only God had allowed us to die when our brothers died before the Lord. Why have you brought the congregation of the Lord into this wilderness, that we and our cattle should die there? Why have you made us come out of Egypt to bring us to this terrible place, this evil place? There's no seed, no figs, no vines or pomegranates, and there's no water to drink. Moses and Aaron went from the presence of the assembly to the door of the tent of meeting. And just like last time, it said, They fell on their faces, or their faces fell. There's two ways of looking at it. And the kavod, the glory of God, appeared to them. And the Lord said, last time this happened, Moses told the people what to do. He said, get your censers, and God was going to show you who is chosen. This time, it's not Moses who decides what they're going to do. It's God himself. God spoke to Moses and said, take a rod, gather together you, Aaron, your brother, and speak to the rock before their eyes. Remember, though this happened before, only the last time Moses was told, strike the rock, just hit it once, and it shall give forth water, and you shall bring forth to them water from the rock, and so give the congregation and their beasts to drink. So Moses took the rock from before the Lord as he commanded him. And Moses and Aaron gathered the congregation together in front of the rock, and he said to them, listen, hear, you rebels. Must we, meaning Aaron and I, get water for you out of this rock? And Moses lifted his hand, and with his rock, he didn't speak to the rock, he struck the rock twice. And water came out abundantly, and the congregation drank, and their beasts also. And the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, because you did not believe me, to sanctify me, to set me apart in the eyes of the people of Israel. Therefore, you shall not bring this congregation into the land. So, what happened to Moses here? Was this humble man suddenly so filled with pride because God listened to him the first time that he ignored what God told him to do? Instead of speaking to the rock, he struck it twice? What lesson can you and I learn from this today? Later in the, sorry, go ahead, Miriam.
I'm just shooting off the hip. It's possible, I mean, that sometimes we have to, with those of us who have a temper, or anybody, you have to try and wait before you give an impulsive answer or do something impulsive. I think he struck out of anger. And instead of, like, when you have a ferocious anger, you have to kind of step back and let it, you know what I mean, simmer down. And he just acted impulsively, and he let his anger overrule what even his relationship with God. But I'm sure there's a more extensive answer, but that I'm just visualizing the whole thing.
Yeah.
And maybe, his trust is worn down a little bit. How long could you take certain things? And there's so many things happening there.
Right. And we have to look at him from the very beginning. When he was first called, he first had a notion. Remember, the first thing that he did was to strike down the Egyptian and killed him. And you don't hear too many times when Moses lost his temper. It's usually he falls on his face and he goes before God. But here, it's like he had it. But one of the things that we've learned about the Torah is that it always explains itself. And it gives us hints. It doesn't always directly tell us exactly what happens, but it paints pictures for us so that we can find principles behind it. And later, we're going to read in these two parashas, we're going to hear about where the serpents were biting the people. And an idea will be hinted at as to why Moses did what he did and why he wouldn't be allowed to enter the promised land. Do you remember what happened with the serpents? Well, we'll talk about it a little later when we get to it.
I guess they started to almost make Moses into a god or the serpent into a god.
Exactly, that human beings tend to put people up on a pedestal. We see it today in modern day Judaism. We see it among the Hasidim, how they run and they pray to the graves of those who come before them as if there's power emanating from their graves. We are a very superstitious people, and we like to see things. We like to be able to touch things. And the very thing with the serpents, the very thing that saved them was the thing that killed them. It's very interesting, all these things that we see in the Torah. So Moses sent messengers from Kadesh to the king of Edom. Remember, Edom was their brother, Jacob and Esau, twins. This is what your brother Israel said. You know how all the adversity that's befallen us, how our fathers went down to Egypt. We lived in Egypt a long time, and the Egyptians dealt harshly with us. And when we cried to the Lord, he heard our voice and sent an angel and brought us out from Egypt. And he's praying, let us pass, I pray, through your country. We'll not pass through the fields and the vineyards. We won't, if we drink the water, nor will we drink the water of the wells. We will go by the king's highway. In other words, we will just go through and we won't. But Edom, his brother, said no. It wouldn't let them through. They refused to give Israel passage through the border. Israel turned away. And I think part of it had to do with the fact that they were going to be spending 40 years, 38 more years in the desert, and it wasn't going to be easy. And the people of Israel, the whole congregation, journeyed from Kadesh and came to Mount Hor. And the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron in Mount Hor by the border of the land of Edom. Aaron shall be gathered to his people, for he shall not enter into the land which I have given the people of Israel, because you rebelled against my word at the water of Meribah. Take Aaron and Eleazar his son, and strip Aaron of his garments. When I read the word strip, I got such a sense of almost shame. It's like that word, when you have someone in the army and their rank is, they're stripped of their rank. It's the same, to me, it was the same type of idea. Put them on Eleazar the son, and Aaron shall be gathered to his people. And Moses did as the Lord commanded, and went up to the mount in sight of all the congregation. And Moses stripped Aaron of his garments and put them on Eleazar his son. I can't imagine how Moses must have felt at that moment. They had been together for so long, and they had done so many things together. And here he had to let him go. And Aaron died there at the top of the mount, and Moses and Eleazar came down. And when all the congregation saw that Aaron was dead, they mourned for Aaron 30 days, all the house of Israel. This idea of 30 days, it began when we saw Jacob, when he was taken to be buried. It was 70 days, but 40 was the time for Egypt where he had to be embalmed. And then the last were the 30 days of Moses. And Moses also would be mourned for 30 days later on in Deuteronomy. And I think that's where we get in Judaism the Shloshim, the 30 days of mourning. When King Arad and the Canaanite who lived in Negev heard tell that Israel came by way of Atarim, then he fought against Israel and took some of them prisoners. Here we see the king of the Canaanites taking hostages from Israel We know what that's like today, the hostages. And Israel made a vow before God. If you will indeed deliver this people into my hand, I will utterly destroy their cities. Just like the soldiers today, going and freeing the hostages and fight. And God listened to the voice of Israel and delivered up the Canaanites and utterly destroyed them in their cities. And he called the name of that place Hormah. And they journeyed from Mount Hor by way of the Red Sea or the Sea of Reeds to go around the land of Edom because they weren't allowed to go through. But the soul of the people was very discouraged because it was tough. They were in a wilderness. And the people spoke against God and still again against Moses. Why have you brought us out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? There's no bread, there's no water, and we hate this bread. They couldn't stand it. They hated that loathsome bread, they called it, this worthless food. And the result, soon as they complained and turned against God and complained against his anointed, what happens? This is a formula, and we're going to see that not only through the Torah, but all through our history. The Lord sent venomous serpents among the people, and they bit the people, and many people of Israel died. Therefore, the people came to Moses and said, we have sinned. We have spoken against the Lord. They knew immediately what happened. Take away the serpents from us. Moses prayed for the people. I like that because I have a tendency when something like this happens, the first thing that I do with myself and with others, look what you did. You did it again. You see, you complained, and this is the result. But Moses doesn't do that. And I pray more and more that I would learn to be like Moses and just pray. Pray for myself and not condemn and not almost, it's almost like sometimes I feel like, those priests who would lash themselves. Sometimes we're so hard on ourselves. Moses just prayed for the people. And the Lord said to Moses, make a serpent. Take the way the serpent was, the venomous serpent, make it out of bronze, set it on a pole, and it shall come to pass that everyone who's bitten, who looks upon it, shall live. To me, that's amazing. And Moses made a serpent of bronze, put it on the pole, and when the serpent, if a serpent had bitten any man, when he looked at the serpent in bronze, he lived. It's amazing to me. But this is what I was telling you before, Miriam. About 700 years later, we read in 2 Kings 18, during the reign of King Hezekiah, that the Israelites were burning incense to this bronze serpent and making it into an idol. And Hezekiah was a righteous king. We went from righteous king to unrighteous king to righteous king to unrighteous king.
It's funny. This is not to put down other religions, but we're discussing. We can discuss any religions, and this particular passage, a lot of Christians will look at this as a sort of almost messianic thing. But both look up to the serpent and you'll be healed. But God didn't want them to start worshiping this serpent. I mean, it sounds like a bit of a crazy thing to ask people to look up to a serpent, but maybe it's just a test of trusting God. I'm giving you this, but basically you're asking for healing, and I'm not sure. Maybe
But look, again, it's in the portion called Chukat. It's a chok. It's something we cannot understand. God is using the very thing that we complained about to get us to change our attitudes.
Yeah, we don't have to know it literally. That's where I see where the
Yes.
hook is. But it doesn't mean you could just put everything aside. There is obviously, I don't think you're doing that, but I mean, we can learn a lesson from this. And obviously, the lesson is don't mistake anything in creation for the God himself. So these people, instead of just obeying and saying, okay, let's trust God in this, not trust the serpent. The serpent isn't God, but they made the serpent into a god.
Exactly. You know,
Mary.
Hezekiah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yes,
Can I say
go
something?
ahead, Jerry.
Miriam,
Yeah.
what you say is very, very meritorious because uh, there's an opinion that they were not looking up at the serpent. Just what you said exactly, trust in God, that they were looking up. They were looking up towards God, and that is what healed them. I've heard that at one point.
Yes, exactly. You know, people tend to worship what they can see and replace their invisible God with something worthless. This the snake in the time of Hezekiah was called Nehushtan, from the word nachash, and nachash is a snake, but it meant a mere piece of bronze. So it's an object that God had commanded Moses to make, which they thought saved lives, had become an idol over time. We need to be very careful to never make an object the source of power. It's what is behind the object. That's the power. That's why God, it says, and it's not by might, not by power, but by my spirit. It's even the same with the army today of Israel. It's not by the power and might of the army, but it's the God behind the army. Our God is the one who is the source of power. And we have to be careful. And you're right, Miriam, about what Christianity has done. They put a man on the cross and made him into an idol. And anyone who prays to this man, it's like this piece of cross has become an idol in the lives of many people. And the man on the idol has become a god. And that's a very dangerous thing according to the Torah. So but there, even a Torah scroll can become an idol, a mezuzah, a black stone in another religion, or in the New Agey, crystals. So many things can become idols. And we have to be careful of things like that. So now in verses, we're going to go from verse 10 to 35. And to summarize it, I'm not going to read it all. After this incident with the snake, the next verses we see Israel continuing on their journey through the desert. And no nation would allow them to pass through, even though they promised not to eat the produce. If they drank water, they'd pay for it. Along the way, they fought battles against many pagan kings, winning more and more territory. But it's like this was at their time in boot camp. They were getting ready for the battles that they would have to fight in order to take the land that God had given them. So all these next verses are
Just one
exact.
thing, that they're in
Yes,
the midst of, all the troubles we're going through in the world vis-a-vis Israel and Gaza, etc.
yes,
And here, people are disputing the right of Israel to the land. And some are even saying Palestinians are the indigenous peoples. First of all, they're not, but God did not just say, go and destroy everybody in Israel who was there before they entered. He said, these people are sacrificing their kids to Moloch and all these different gods. And there's a reason for this. God is not just a bloodthirsty God. He didn't just say, go into, if it was a God-fearing land, he would have said, God has, if you look through the whole Bible and all of history, God does not say, go conquer a land that, a land that, let's say, believes in God, doesn't worship idols, doesn't sacrifice their kids. So when people say that Israel went into the land and just slaughtered everybody and took everybody, it's not what happened.
No, no. And you can see even today with the lies that we hear coming out of that part of the world, the things that they accuse us of that are just not true.
Yeah.
But the Lord said to Moses, "Do not fear him, for I have delivered him into your hand and all his people and his land. And you shall do to him as you did to King Sihon of the Amorites, who lived in Heshbon." So they struck him and his sons and all his people until no one was left alive, and they possessed his land. They were gathering up the land that God was going to be giving them. And the people of Israel set forward and camped in the plains of Moab on this side of the Jordan by Jericho. Now we're going into Balak. That's the second part of the parasha, and from chapters 22 to 24, we'll be able to see that no divination can work against Israel. No cursing, as Balaam said. There is no sorcery against Jacob, no divination against Israel. So now Balak was the king of the Moabites. And Moab was very afraid of the people because there were so many. And Moab was distressed because of the people of Israel. And they said to the elders of Midian, "Now shall this company lick up all who are around us, as the ox licks up the grass of the field." And Balak, the son of Zippor, was king of the Moabites. And he sent messengers, therefore, to Balaam, the son of Beor, to Petor, which is by the river, of the land of the sons of his people, to call him, saying, "Behold, there's a people coming out of Egypt. They cover the face of the earth." Imagine how many there were. They cover the face of the earth, and they're dwelling opposite me. Now, he knew that they wouldn't be able to conquer these people. "Come now, I pray, curse this people for me, for they are too mighty for me. Perhaps I shall prevail, that we may defeat them, and that I may drive them out of the land. For I know that he whom you bless is blessed, and he whom you curse is cursed." I just want to see what I wrote here. King Balak's view, which was prevalent at that time, was that he could hire the right professional to harm his enemy. And to tell you the truth, this is still at work in today's governments. The Torah, however, is going to show us that only God controls Israel's fate. It's almost satirical that a diviner hired to curse Israel would end up blessing us. We still chant one of his blessings every Shabbat. We're going to get to read it soon. The elders of Moab, the elders of Midian, the Moabites were enemies up to the 10th generation of Israel. The Midianites were relatives because Moses married a Midianite, Zipporah. Both of them got together. They departed with the rewards of divination in their hands. And they came to Balaam, and they spoke to him the words of Balak. And he said to them, this is Balaam saying, "Stay here tonight, and I'll bring back word to you, as the Lord shall speak to me." And the princes of Moab stayed with Balaam. And God came to Balaam and said, what are these men with you?" And Balaam said to God, "Balak, the son of Zippor, the king of Moab, has sent for me, saying, Behold, there's a people come out of Egypt, covering the face of the earth. Come now and curse them for me. Perhaps I shall be able to overcome them and drive them out." God said to Balaam, "You shall not go with them. You shall not curse the people, for they are blessed." And I was wondering, does a human have the ability to put a curse on a people? What do you think?
Does a person have Well, many people have tried, you know. I mean, God is in charge of everything. There might be, there are people who have been cursed in terms of black magic, etc., etc. But
Yeah,
I don't think anything could be done outside of God's will.
exactly. Remember, God had made a covenant with Abraham. I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. So
Right.
that's still real up to this day. You know, there are words, because a curse are words, blessings are words, and they reveal the level of morality in the person who utters these words. Like in Leviticus 19, it tells us, do not curse the deaf. Why? If a deaf person can't hear it, how could it be a curse? But what it does, it shows the level of morality in the person who uttered the curse. Wishing harm on another person is a failure of our morality. It dehumanizes another human being who we think of as having less value than ourselves. That's what Hitler did. He tried to dehumanize the Jews, dehumanize the blacks or the gypsies or wherever he chose because he wanted to create that perfect race. A curse reveals that the one who does the cursing is corrupt. Wanting to harm an innocent person is wrong whether or not you succeed.
It
God,
doesn't mean that, like I think about this a lot in terms of what's happening now, and not everything that Israel does or has done is right. So, when people are, argue with me about, for example, stuff that's happening in Gaza, like I don't doubt that Israel had to react to October 7th by trying to eliminate Hamas. I guess my point is, but there were times when Israel went to war and God had not led them. He had said, they took it upon themselves, and so this could be happening, maybe not. It could be happening. This is me talking. Not that I believe the war with Gaza is real and the only thing they could do, they're in a war. But the extent
well,
of what,
they remember they didn't start the war. They didn't go to war. They were defending themselves.
no, that all
Yeah,
I agree with that. I'm
yeah.
just making a point, um, just not to make Israel the angel that she isn't. I mean, Israel is, God chose Israel for a purpose, and I'm saying, um, uh, it's not that Israel never makes mistakes, and that it's not to make it look like Israel was chosen because it's perfect or whatever. Israel does make mistakes. But God's plan for Israel, God chose Israel for a reason, for a special purpose,
Yes,
to be a light to the world.
exactly. Exactly. And when we are being a light to the world, when we're doing what we are called to do, the blessings overflow on us. And it's not only for Israel, it's for each individual. You know, we can see that in our lives. We know when we make a mistake, when we do something wrong, we have to make it right. All these things that we're reading are principles that help us to grow. And that's the beauty of the Torah.
Right.
So here, Balaam refuses to come. Balak sent princes again, more honorable, greater even princes. And they came to Balaam and said to him, thus says Balak, the son of Zippor, that nothing, I beg you, hinder you from coming to me. For I will promote you to great honor, and I will do whatever you say to me. Come and curse this people for me. Balaam answered and said to the servants of Balak, even if Balak were to give me his house full of silver and gold, I would not go beyond the word of the Lord my God to do less or more. You would think that he's a follower of the God of Israel. But look what he says. stay here tonight and let me see what the Lord says. Maybe he'll change his mind. And God came to Balaam at night and said to him, if the men come to call you, go up and go with them. But only that word which I shall say to you, that you shall do. And Balaam rose up in the morning, he saddled his donkey, and he went with the princes of Moab. And God's anger was kindled because he went. And it just showed the heart of Balaam. The angel of the Lord stood in the way as the adversary against him. He was wrong. Now, Balaam was riding on his donkey, and his two servants were with him. And the donkey saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way, and his sword drawn in his hand. And the donkey turned aside out of the way and went into the field. Balaam struck the donkey to turn it back to the way. But the angel of the Lord stood in the path of the vineyards, a wall being on his one side and a wall on the other. And the donkey saw the angel of the Lord. It pushed itself against the wall and crushed Balaam's foot against the wall, and he struck her again. And the angel of the Lord went further and stood in the narrow place, where there was no way to turn to the right or the left. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, it fell down under Balaam. And Balaam's anger was he was so angry, he struck the donkey with a staff. And the Lord opened the mouth of the donkey, and it said to Balaam, what have I done to you that you have struck me 3 times? And Balaam said to the donkey, because you have mocked me, I wish there was a sword in my hand, for now I would kill you. And the donkey said to Balaam, am I not your donkey upon which you have ridden since I was yours to this day? Was I ever wont to do so to you? And he said, no. Then the Lord opened the eyes of Balaam, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way, and his sword drawn in his hand. And he bowed down his head, and he fell on his face. And the angel of the Lord said to him, why did you strike your donkey 3 times? Behold, I went out to withstand you, because your way is perverse before me. And the donkey saw me and turned from me these 3 times. If it had not turned aside, surely now I would have slain you and let her live. And Balaam said to the angel of the Lord, I have sinned, for I didn't know that you stood in the way against me. Now therefore, if it displeases you, I will go back again. The angel of the Lord said to Balaam, go with the men, but only the word that I shall speak to you, that you shall speak. So Balaam went with the princes of Balak, and Balak heard Balaam had come. He went out to meet him in the city of Moab, which is in the border of Arnon, which is the outermost border. And Balak said to Balaam, did I not send to you to call you? Why did you not come to me? Am I not able to honor you? And Balaam said to Balak, behold, I have come to you. Have I now any power at all to say anything? The word that God puts in my mouth, that I shall speak. And Balaam went with Balak, and they came to Kiriath Huzot. And Balak offered oxen and sheep, and sent to Balaam and to the princes who were there. And it came to pass on the next day that Balak took Balaam, brought him up to the high places of Baal, that he might see the utmost part of the people. And Balaam said to Balak, build me here 7 altars. This is the prophet saying to the king, build me 7 altars, and prepare 7 oxen, 7 rams. Balak did as Balaam had spoken. And they offered on the altar a bull and a ram. And the prophet Balaam said to King Balak, stand by your burnt offering, and I will go, and perhaps the Lord will come to meet me, and whatever he shows me I will tell you. And he went to a high place. And God met Balaam, and he said to him, I have prepared 7 altars, and I have offered upon every altar a bull and a ram. And the Lord put a word in Balaam's mouth and said, return to Balak, and this is what you're going to tell him. How shall I curse he who God has not cursed. How shall I defy he whom the Lord has not defied? For from the top of the rocks I see him, from the hills I behold him. Behold, the people shall live alone and shall not be reckoned among the nations. Who can count the dust of Jacob and the number of the fourth part of Israel? Let me die the die of the righteous, and let my last end be like his. And Balak said to Balaam, what have you done to me? I told you to curse my enemies, and you have blessed them. And he answered and said, must I not heed to speak what the Lord has put in my mouth? And Balak said to him, come with me, I beg you, to another place from where you may see them. You shall see the utmost part of them, and shall not see them at all, and curse them from me from there. And he brought him to the field of Zophim, to the top of Pisgah, and he built 7 altars and offered a bull and a ram. And the Lord met Balaam and put a word in his mouth and said, go again to Balak and say, when he came to them, say thus, and when he came to them, behold, he stood by the burnt offering, and the princes of Moab with him. And Balak said to him, what has the Lord spoken? And he took up this discourse. Rise up, Balak, and listen, you son of Zippor. God is not a man that he should lie, nor the son of man that he should change his mind. Has he said and shall he not do it? Has he spoken and shall he not make good what he has spoken? Behold, I have received a command to bless, and he is blessed, and I cannot reverse it. He has not seen iniquity in Jacob, nor has he seen perverseness in Israel. And the Lord his God is with him, and the trumpet blast of a king is among them. God brought them out of Egypt. He has, as it were, the strength of a wild ox. Surely there is no enchantment, no incantation against Jacob, nor is there any divination against Israel. According to this time, it shall be said of Jacob and Israel what God has done. Behold, the people shall rise up as a great lion, and lift himself as a young lion. He shall not lie down until he eats of the prey and drinks the blood of the slain. And Balak said to Balaam, neither curse them at all, nor bless them. But Balaam answered, did I not tell you all that the Lord speaks that I must do? And Balak said to Balaam, I beg you, I will bring you to another place, and perhaps it will please God that you may curse them. And Balak brought Balaam to the top of Peor. And Balaam said to Balak, again, build me altars. And Balaam lifted his eyes, and he took up this discourse. The speech of Balaam, the son of Beor, the speech of a man whose eyes are open, the speech of him who heard the words of God, who saw the vision of the Almighty falling down, and yet he had his eyes open. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov. How good are your tents of Jacob, your dwelling places, O Israel. Like winding brooks, like gardens by the riverside, like aloes which the Lord has planted, like cedar trees beside the waters. He shall pour the water out of his buckets, and his seed shall be in many waters. And his king shall be higher than King Agag, and his kingdom shall be exalted. God brought him out of Egypt. He was, as it were, the strength of a wild ox. He shall eat up nations. He shall eat up the nations, his enemies, and shall break their bones and pierce them through with his arrows. These to me are like future prophecies. He couched, he lay down as a lion, as a great lion. Who shall stir him up? Blessed is he who blesses you. Cursed is he who curses you. And Balak's anger was kindled against Balaam. And he struck his hands together, and Balak said to Balaam, I called you to curse my enemies, and you have blessed them 3 times. Now therefore, flee to your place. I thought to promote you with great honor, but the Lord has kept you back from honor. And Balaam said to Balak, Did I not tell you, your messengers who you sent to me? Even if you gave me silver and gold, a house full, I would not go beyond the command of the Lord to do either good or bad of my own mind. But what the Lord said, that I will speak. And then it continues on, and it goes into Amalek and some more of the 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 fighting that they had to do. And it says Israel attached itself. You see, he wasn't able to curse Israel, but something was going to happen now that Israel would end up cursing himself, herself. The Lord said to Moses, Take all the chiefs of the people, hang them up before the Lord in the sun, that the fierce anger of the Lord may be turned away from Israel. Why? It says here, Israel stayed in Shittim, and the people began to commit harlotry with the daughters of Moab. And they called the people to sacrifices of their gods, and the people ate and bowed down to the gods of the Moabites. And Israel attached himself to Baal Peor, and the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel. The Lord said to Moses, Take all the chiefs of the people and hang them up before the Lord in the sun, that the fierce anger of the Lord may be turned away from Israel. And Moses said to the judges of Israel, Slay every one of the men who were attached to Baal Peor. And behold, one of the people of Israel came and brought to his brothers a Midianite woman in the sight of Moses and in the sight of all the congregation of the people of Israel who were weeping before the door of the tent of meeting. When Pinchas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest, saw it, he rose up from among the congregation and took a spear in his hand, and he went after the man of Israel in the tent and thrust both of them through, the man of Israel and the woman through her belly. So the plague ceased from the people of Israel, and those who died in the plague were 24,000. And this, I think, is how it ends. And next week, we're going to go through what happened with Pinchas.
What happened at the end with Balaam? I mean, he couldn't curse Israel, but what happened he accepted money or something at the end? He accepted money, or what happened?
Hold on, let me try to find a way to get out of this. I don't know what happened here. I can't find how to shut this down because oh, here we go. Sorry, what did you say, Miriam?
I'm just not sure. Like, I know obviously Balaam just did he didn't, it looks like he almost was pro-Israel, but he wasn't, because didn't he take all sorts of payments from Balak to
He did, but he couldn't deliver. He was what they call a prophet for profit.
Right, okay.
He heard from God, but he didn't follow his what he knew because he was still, I guess, a pagan priest. And he charged for divination. He charged
Right,
other people to curse other nations. It must have worked among, the pagan nations, but he couldn't do it when it came to Israel
right.
because God had blessed the people already. I can't see you, Miriam.
Huh?
I can't see you. I'm speaking to a black box.
I am
There you are. There you are. That's better. Yeah. It's what can I say? In these principles that God gives us is to always put him before everything and before anything. And that's that and the journey through the desert is very much like our journey through this life. And we have to be careful not to allow things that lead us in the wrong direction because of money or because of promises that we'll be rich or that will to get in the way of remembering that God is the one who ultimately provides everything for us in our lives. It's easy to be tempted. And he was tempted.
Yeah. It doesn't mean that godly people can't be rich, but you don't sell yourself for money.
Exactly. God blessed it. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were very, very wealthy people,
Yeah,
but they always stayed true, even though they failed, and we all fail, but they always stayed true to the God of Israel. And if they left, they always came back. If they
right,
forgot, they made restitution. And that's what it is. We're not to worship anything other than our God, to serve anyone other than our God.
right.
Yeah. New Jerry, anything to add or take
Well,
away?
I made a comment in between there, but
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
So new.
No, it's a simple message. What
Yeah,
can I
yeah, that's
say?
good. That's
It's
good.
it's not complicated. It's
No,
simple. And it's like each time we learn a little more and a little more is revealed through reading it. We grow, we change, we continue to add on to what we know, and God is just working in our lives, and we need him now more than ever.
that's for sure. It's
Yeah.
funny how God uses even a donkey. Could you imagine if shadows started talking to you?
Yeah. Yeah. God can speak through any one of us at any given time, and we may not even know what we're saying.
Right,
Yeah. What's going to touch another soul?
right.
All we can do is take one day at a time.
Yeah.
You know, yesterday with all the craziness going on in Montreal with this man who's out shooting the first thing
What
we
finally happened? Do you know? Did they
um
find, I know, um,
well, he belonged to a group called Incel.
yeah, that I know, but they
Yeah.
killed they killed a rabbi.
He wasn't a
He
rabbi.
killed, oh, he wasn't a rabbi.
Mm-mm. No, as a matter of fact, a friend of mine knew him. He dated a friend of hers.
Really?
Yeah, he used to come visit people at Maimonides. Yeah, he was an Orthodox Jew, very nice man. He was just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Wow. Did you know him?
No, I remember seeing him. Remember him years ago, but he wasn't a rabbi, and he
Wow.
it wasn't a targeted. It wasn't
No, no,
targeted
he
against.
was in a line of fire, I
He
think.
was in the line of fire, like the policeman, which is very sad. And believe it or not, the policeman's name was Muhammad.
Yeah, that's right.
So it
So,
wasn't an
so he didn't
Islamic
kill anybody. He didn't even kill, his intention was to kill women,
women. I don't know
but
why he
he
went.
ended up killing two men.
Yeah, I don't even know why he went there. It's not clear.
Who knows?
Yeah. But all
Wow.
I know is when our number's up, doesn't matter where we are. That's why we don't need to be afraid because our lives really lie in God's hands. And
Right.
and if I were to go, I would hope it would be fast.
Yeah,
As fast as a bullet,
yeah,
right to the brain or to the heart. So I don't know what's going on.
yeah.
Maybe he went left his body and he's looking down at everything that's happening.
Who? The guy who got killed.
The two who got killed.
Right, right, right.
Yeah. But those poor families who are left mourning.
I know it's
Very sad.
hideous.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, until there's suffering, People, look at what we learned through the scriptures, that until we're suffering, we complain, and we complain against God, and we complain against people. We complain that it's your fault and this is your fault. And then a plague happens and everybody turns around and comes to God and wants to make things right again. What a what a web we weave. It's basically the same message over and over again.
Yeah. Well, that's like you always hear this joke about there's basically only one story, when you
Yeah.
hear in Yiddish theater, Shmata comes down, Shmata goes up.
Yeah.
Boy goes with girl, girl leaves boy, boy goes with this. Like it's one big long story told
Yeah.
over and over again.
Yeah.
Jerry, you're gonna say something?
You're raising your hand?
No, I'm going to say, bless us all.
Yeah.
We are already blessed, honestly, because if we belong to the people of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, he says, I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. So we are a blessed people. God is blessed. That's what it says. Balaam said to King Balak, I can't curse those whom God has blessed. So how can we have a curse come upon us? Look what it said at the last verse. We went and they whored against the gods of the Moabites, the Midianites.
Well, that's how we can be disobedient to God.
Yeah,
Doesn't mean we're automatically, I mean,
we suffer the
we
consequences.
suffer the consequences.
Yeah, and that's very often it's death. We become
Yeah.
sick. We become Pinchas killed those two. He
Yeah.
was he was really upset because a plague had broken out. A plague had broken out, fiery serpents in the desert, and each time it took a God going to the intercessor going to God and begging God to stop it. Sometimes it was with an offering, sometimes it was by the death of people. You know, look what it took for the state of Israel to become a nation. A lot of people died.
Yeah.
And that's hard to understand, but we keep bringing it upon ourselves, even though we don't want to admit it. We cannot blame anybody else but ourselves for not being faithful to our God. He, he gives everything to us. When I get sick, something happens, I always look at myself first. What am I doing? And it's not an easy journey. It's not an easy walk with him. It's constant examining ourselves and our actions and comparing it to his principles, his commandments. What have I done? And how am I affecting those around me? Am I bringing light into the world or am I bringing darkness? That's how I see it. I don't know how other people see it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Anyhow, so with that, I will bid you adieu, which
Thank
means
you very much.
to God.
That's right.
May we walk with
Adieu, oui,
God.
oui.
Adieu.
Oui, c'est ça.
Adios.
Adios.
Vaya con Dios.
Vaya con Dios.
Walk with God. And until we'll see you again on Shabbat, and God willing next week when we will continue reading about Pinchas. Sometimes I feel like a Pinchas. Miriam, you're more like a Pinchas.
No, no, you're more like a Pinterest.
Oh, are you kidding? I watched you on the bus.
That's a wild donkey.
No, you stand up for justice. You're ready to fight. I
That's
love it.
yeah,
Good
I'm
night,
almost
Jerry.
afraid.
Good
Good
night,
night. Good
Mary.
night.
Good night. I'll see you soon. Have a wonderful week. God bless you.